chance to make it 28-3. Arthur Blank loving it. Up by 25. Toss to White. He's in! What a comeback!
All right, welcome to another episode of the 28-3 podcast. We are back home base, Nick's office.
That's right.
Been a while since I've seen you two in person.
Yeah, y'all have aged wonderfully in the past month.
Nick's got a little color on his face from all the trips he's taken.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, where was it this time, Nick? The exotic destinations.
We were visiting family in Ohio. Then I went to work in California.
Okay.
So,
yeah.
It's a long stretch, but it was good.
Did you attend any Saints practices out in California?
Did not.
Oh, man.
Wasn't close enough. 5-hour drive. I deemed it not worth it.
Of course you'd have to get the press pass to get in.
That's your job.
Yeah.
You didn't get it in time, so I couldn't go.
Yeah, exactly. We'll work on that for maybe next year, or if we get lucky this year. I don't know what it's going to be that the 28-3 podcast has press passes. They might not want us.
I wouldn't.
I don't know. I think we can pull it off one day. We'll see.
We'll talk to Greg Bensel. He probably listens, to be honest.
I'm sure he does.
He must. Yeah.
I mean, from what I understand, the Saints are listening to all Saints-related podcasts and just like trying to glean as much information as possible.
You don't think they do their research?
Oh,
you know? You don't think Mickey Loomis has a pulse on the Who Dat Nation?
I think he does.
He's
everywhere. Ears everywhere.
Yeah.
I just think he's looking for someone to blame for his own shortcomings, probably.
Yeah. Well, he's clearly not doing a whole lot with all of the bitching and moaning we're doing, because whatever we seem to be requesting, he does the opposite. But speaking of the opposite of what we've bitched and moaned about, what do we think about this most recent preseason game? I mean, I think we saw some, at least with the starters, some improvement, or at least some, not changes, but decent-looking things that were in line with the things we were bitching and moaning about last time.
Yeah, I'll say this. I feel a lot better today, and we're recording this the day after the game. Mm-hmm. I feel a lot better today, Monday afternoon, than I did Sunday morning. Sunday morning, I woke up and I decided to go ahead and log into all the betting websites just to make sure I had everything in line, ready to rumble next weekend.
Every single one, right?
All of them, because we got college football next week. Florida State playing, who's they playing? Georgia Tech, maybe? Somebody. Anyway, logged in, making sure everything's ready to roll, and then I just happened to take a peek at the week one lines, and I was like, you know what? I really would not bet on the Saints against the Panthers. And I just started thinking
What was the line?
I want to say it was like 4.5 as an average. And I'm like, I started thinking about it. I said, like, there's a real chance that we can lose that game.
Yeah.
Based on how things had looked so far and just, the offensive line in general, injuries on offense. So I wasn't very optimistic going into the game yesterday.
Yeah.
But I will say that 95-yard drive really, I'd feel a lot better if we had a single running back with any juice at all. You know what I mean? Because these plays, Jamaal Williams averaged damn near 6.5 yards a carry.
Yeah.
And he's running in concrete Nikes.
Yeah. He looked better than I think he looked the best that Jamaal Williams has looked in the Saints uniform running the ball. Because
not saying much.
Which is, again, that's what I was going to say. It's not saying a whole lot, but at least it was kind of refreshing to see, Jamaal Williams toting the rock and ticking off 5-6 yards, even at a 10-yard gain at one point. But I was thinking, too, kind of what you're getting at is that a lot of these run designs, these play designs seem perfect for a running back that's got the juice.
Yeah.
I'm optimistic on what AK can bring when he's back. I don't think whatever it is that he's dealing with right now is
it's a back strain, I believe.
Yeah. I mean, I think he can get that rehab. I think a lot of these...
It's apparently something he has dealt with in the past.
Right. And so worst case scenario with this, I think he's slowed down a bit. This is my expert medical opinion, of course.
Of course.
But, yeah. But, no, I mean, I think he can rehab that. A lot of these training camp injuries are precautionary when they hold them out. Like, I think if the Saints played a regular season game on Sunday, he's probably playing based on everything you're hearing.
He'd be playing.
Yeah, and I think he could hit up into those holes a lot faster than Jamaal, and you'd be seeing a lot of even more production out of the run game.
Agree. My bigger issue is Kendre Miller. Because Kendre Miller, I feel like, would just eat with the way this offensive scheme is set up.
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily agree that AK is built for this at this point in his career. He would. I do think he's better than Jamaal. That's not Jamaal's strong suit, and,
right.
and it was working for him. So I do think it would look better with AK. The guy who needs to be in there is Kendre. That's the guy who can blow through that hole. That's his style.
Yeah.
It's the one cut, get upfield quickly. AK is more of that patient, take it and then he'll hit when he sees that lane. I just feel like this run scheme is built for Kendre, and he is just no one knows. I mean,
yeah, I feel like Kendre's name is no longer Kendre Miller. Like when we're talking about him in this like prospective mode, it's like his name needs to be a healthy Kendre Miller,
yes.
right? Because Kendre Miller right now is not a healthy Kendre Miller. The Kendre Miller we know now as Saints fans
let's be
is
real.
one that's kind of like missing.
He wasn't last year either. So, is it yet another one of those? Is it another Peyton Turner, Marcus Davenport, just one of those draft picks we make that just never sees the field? Let's hope not, because the one game we saw last year, the most impressive running back game of the whole season last year was him. And it was the last game of the season, and when I think we talked about it, the new offense, we all felt, fit his style very, very well.
Yep.
And he's just non-existent. So the one thing I will say is I don't see anything in Mims at all. That's personal opinion. I don't like the way he looks. He looks slow to everything a little bit.
He looks faster than Jamaal, right?
Faster, yes.
Again, not saying much.
Which
But
is
not
saying much.
he doesn't look better
I'm trying
to
to
me.
take it step by step here.
Yeah,
But
he doesn't look better. He is quicker, but not by a lot. I don't know.
I mean, he was undrafted for a reason.
Right. But I think there was some hope there that maybe we found some. I don't know. I don't think we did.
it wasn't the second part of the component when we did the, with Kendre being injured, calling it the Antonio Pittman, Pierre Thomas situation. The second part of that, the Pierre Thomas part, hasn't quite panned out.
That's right.
The Antonio Pittman part, very much there. Your higher draft pick running back, definitely hurt. Definitely nowhere to be seen. The Pierre Thomas part, that part hasn't clicked in yet.
So I know Max and I were talking. He's like, he might even make the team. I don't see there's any way you can keep anyone behind AK and Jamaal other than Kendre, regardless, because just the chance that Kendre gets healthy is better than keeping one of those other guys on the roster, in my opinion. I think that upside, even with the injury problems, is more valuable than keeping a Mims or even a James Robinson, who looked good, pretty decent yesterday.
He looked solid yesterday.
I think James Robinson probably looked better as a whole than Mims, and again, Jamaal you have to take with a grain of salt. He was in there with the starters. He was getting punishing lead blocks from Taysom, which were awesome. I love good fullback lead blocks. I love to see that, and especially from Taysom. Hopefully, like you said in your text, Max,
he had good runs.
He can make it more than 3 weeks doing that. But back to the running backs. Yeah, we always talk about it this time of year that we start doing all these crazy math calculations on who makes the 53 and who's going to be practice squad and all this stuff. So in a year when it was like a prime Breeze year, and you're like, okay, we need to carry one backup QB, so we know we're going to have two QBs. Maybe you can carry a fourth running back. Or when you know that you only need like 3-4 tight ends, or you don't have a wild card like Taysom, then Taysom's going to be in a position group one way or another. He's going to be an extra body in a position group. So you're going to be hard pressed not to keep both Hainer and Rattler. So
no, they're keeping both of them.
Right. So you got a 3 QB year, right?
Yeah.
So whether or not that means a 4 running back year, probably not.
Probably not. You're looking at 3.
Yeah, and you're going to need all the offensive tackles on the active roster you can get. Offensive linemen.
Well, hold on. Here's the question: Xander Horvath got released last week. He was that fullback we brought in from the Chargers.
Yeah.
So that means it's just Adam Prentice
and Taysom.
So Taysom, I think they still on the official Saints roster, he's listed as a quarterback.
Obviously, he's not. QB?
He's still listed as a quarterback for some reason.
Yeah,
but
they must not have updated that.
You got to think that he's going to be fullback primarily.
Yeah.
The Juszczyk role.
Yeah, he's turning into that true H-back.
Right. So my question is Prentice a lock? do you really need to keep that, the true blocking fullback? Because he's not a threat running or receiving.
My one problem with that is if you roll Taysom out there for 20 running plays at fullback, Taysom's not going to be around very long.
You need someone to spell Taysom. 'Cause I think what was refreshing, and we talked about it at the end of last pod. What did we want to see out of the preseason game against the Niners? And my request was that we at least open up the playbook a little bit more. And
they did.
I was happy to see they did it. They probably still, of course, didn't show everything, but they definitely opened it up a hell of a lot more than last week. Or at a minimum, they executed it well enough to show you.
The vision.
A drive.
The vision was there.
Yeah.
Like you could see what they're trying to do.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like everything's going to be predicated off of the running game, which has been said numerous times since Kubiak got hired.
Well, the only way to keep the QB alive is to predicate everything on running, because everything's going to have to give him an extra second. You're going to have to take that pass rush off of him somehow. And
so what I think in regards, whether it's Prentice or if there's some other fullback out there that they're looking at right now,
I would imagine it's Prentice if there's one.
Yeah, I think they definitely carry a fullback because
so if
they've showed, like the commentator, I don't know who the color. Well,
Sanchez.
We do know Sanchez. Yeah. Holy shit, he looked on fire.
He looked suave, man. Rico Suave.
Good God, that hairstyle, dude. Holy crap.
Look. You and I don't need to be talking about hair. Come on.
I'm not saying that. There's a comparison to be made.
You would trade for that hair right now.
Like I couldn't tell if he was like,
and then trim it.
AC Slater or like one of the villains
AC
from
Slater.
Fast and the Furious.
Yes.
It was like a mix of like a dude from the.
All we needed was a tank top, and it was vintage AC Slater.
It was like if you merged one of the guys in the cartels from Narcos and AC Slater and like put their hairstyles together. It was it was special.
Again, for those listening at home, Corey is extremely jealous.
I mean, it's something.
It's something.
But
no, back to your point.
Back to my point. He said, he's like, look, what the Saints just did there. He's like, I want everyone watching to realize they just ran the ball into a 10-man box and still got 10 yards.
Yeah,
that's awesome. And I think that's what shows me, like, because usually you would say, well, if you keep Prentice and you put Prentice in at the fullback, then everybody's going to know you're running it. Whereas if Taysom's in there, then it could be a run over pass. I think they're at the point now where there's going to be just some plays where they don't care if you know that they're running.
Yeah.
Like the idea is that you can load up the box. We're going to run it anyway. So that's why I think one of the main reasons they keep a fullback.
Yeah, the scheme itself, I was impressed with how they were. Like you said, they didn't give a shit if you knew they were running.
Yeah, and
they were going to run no matter what.
Kubiak said that in the press conference. One of the first times he spoke as OC, he was like, "We want to run against eight-man fronts."
Yeah,
yeah.
And then one play that stood out was the Olave when he was supposed to be blocking for a run, and he whiffed. And there was a lot of chatter on Twitter, about like, well, why is Olave that doesn't make it? Why is he blocking? And the answer is because the wide receivers have to block in this offense.
Correct.
To make it work.
Your best receiver needs to be on the field for the threat of the best receiver being on the field.
But that's also in here to say like, oh, here's my offense, here's the design, here's what it requires out of everybody on the field. But you know what? Yeah, Chris, you're right. I'm going to make a special play just for you.
Dude, I will say this, man. We have gone on record about how useless Twitter is for the most part. And my God, yesterday was a fucking cesspool. Like, I had to unfollow a few people.
These are the same people when Lynn Bowden lined up and said, oh, they're running it every time because we would put in a block. Like, it's the same people. So
and there were some reasonably intelligent football fans that we follow on Twitter that had some really stupid takes yesterday. And one of them was like, why is Olave blocking? Because he has to fucking block.
I think
we don't have the Lynn Bowden, Keith Kirkwood situation from 2023.
Right.
You can't absolutely definitively know it's a run every time.
Right.
That's what they were all bitching about last year.
I think what people say on Twitter, and then there's a lot of like, well, what you meant to say was ... I think what a lot of people in that situation, what they meant to say was that play design versus that personnel and defense wasn't a particularly good matchup because it wasn't that Olave had to block. It's that on that play he was matched up against a freaking linebacker.
Right.
Okay, that's a difficult matchup. That's a personnel matchup. Could Kubiak have called a different play that didn't have Olave having to like hold up against a linebacker versus hold up against a cornerback? That's more of the conversation to be had. He shouldn't be. I mean, he should be blocking. Period.
He needs to block.
You can't expect him to win against a linebacker.
I just want to see the effort.
And
we saw effort.
Yeah,
trying to block.
Look, Olave again made some
And
catches.
he had one really good catch, I
Yeah.
thought.
Yeah.
The one across the middle was a really good catch. And got hit and held it.
Yeah.
Right, that's what I'm saying. I think we saw 2 weeks in a row now. I think it looks to me that Olave is definitely making a commitment to, whether it's bulked up or be stronger, it's at least play stronger.
No, he looked better.
At least play stronger. Like, catch the ball with your hands, hold on to the ball.
Yeah,
He's done that.
And one more thing, before I get off my Twitter soapbox, the first quarter was insufferable yesterday because anytime something that wasn't
Perfect.
wasn't perfect. That's a better way to put it. Wasn't perfect. It's Derek Carr did, and look, I hate Derek Carr as much as anybody. I don't think we're winning anything with Derek Carr, and I'm as ready as anyone to see what Spencer Rattler can do or Jake Haener can do next year.
Yeah.
Because the reality is neither one of them are ready to step in for Derek Carr this year.
Let's talk about that.
People need
There's a
Rattler?
quote-unquote agenda going around on Twitter. Of
course,
they're
yeah.
not fucking ready.
Stop it.
Before we get off the Twitter thing, I think I will give a shout out to Jono because I think he had some of the best tweets when he was like,
He was cooking yesterday.
When he was like, "Man, this is gonna be a rough night for the Saints Nation." And like, I was like, "Wait, why?" And he goes, "Derek Carr had a good night."
No, Jono was cooking.
That was good.
Rattler and Haener were both awful yesterday.
Yeah.
That's one thing I think you've got to take out of this for that whole narrative that you're talking about on Twitter.
Haener had some good passes, but it was too up.
Haener had some bad ones too.
Yeah, it was
there
up
were some bad
It was
ones.
way up and down.
He missed wide open people. Even the
His first pass was awful.
good completions
Yeah.
weren't on target. They were turned into difficult catches often when they shouldn't have been. He wasn't accurate yesterday, in my opinion. It was
overall,
He wasn't.
overall, no.
Rattler with the fumble, sacked twice, only 4 completions on 10 dropbacks. I think 14 total passing yards. While
He
he
missed
was
some
in,
reads, you could see.
and threw the ball on the ground to wide open receiver on that third down, which was 2 yards short anyway. Wouldn't have mattered, but
Yeah.
neither of them look good. Let's be honest. And that was not a first team. That was basically mostly
Future UPS drivers.
yeah. So and the pressure wasn't terrible on either of them. The ball wasn't coming out. The ball was off target. It was ugly. Both of them need time.
Yeah.
There is no debate over whether it's time for one of them to be playing. It's not.
Right.
Derek Carr needs to play, especially with the line the way it is, because he's got the most experience dealing with that type of situation. You don't want to get one of them in there and just ruin them for their career.
Exactly.
Anyway.
If someone's going to get hurt and killed, let it be Carr.
Yeah. And he played a pretty damn good game yesterday. Nothing exciting, no big plays per se, but picking up, the drive. I know it was one big drive really if you can quit, but they were playing a lot of starters, not all of them.
Yeah.
But it was a pretty well played offense. I thought conservative maybe, yes, but a lot of run, a lot of short pass game, and they were picking up first downs, and I thought it looked okay.
Yeah. I mean, look,
They were missing Fred Warner and
apparently they're missing a lot
Bosa.
of guys.
And Bosa, yeah.
I think the one place where like this would have been like if we talked a lot about how Derek Carr's press conference bothered me last week, but if
hold on before you get started. Where did it rate on a scale of 1 to 10?
Well, this kind of plays into what I was about to say. I think the things that he said this week are fine because he didn't do anything.
So you weren't offended at all like you were last week?
No, because the way he played today aligned with what he said. Whereas I still think, this is the thing with Carr. Did he have some throws yesterday that weren't perfect or even weren't great that were still completions? Yes. But, I think the Twitter Houdat Nation, the naysayers, lose, the people who just go off on Carr no matter what.
There's a lot of those.
They lose the perspective on who Derek Carr is because it's he's never going to be, to your point, he's never going to be that guy who is the reason you're going to make it a few rounds deep in the playoffs. He will not be the reason. What he is at best is a top, he's a mid-level quarterback. I think even at his best, he's number 10.
Even last year, when
and
all three of us were fairly optimistic, to back up what you're saying, is we said if you put him in a perfect situation, I said I think he could win in the playoffs, multiple games. Could he win a Super Bowl? I don't know. That's very freaking hard.
Right.
Max and I were talking over the last 10 years, how many non-Hall of Famers have won a Super Bowl? One.
It's becoming harder and harder to do.
It's hard.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't go that far. But if you put a perfect situation against Derek Carr, I think he's good enough to get you into the playoffs, contend, win the division, especially last year.
Yeah.
And we didn't do it. We missed it by a game or a tie break.
Well, I think the model that's being shown on at least how to get there is the Niners. I mean, look no further than the offense that Kubiak's coming from. I mean, if you have a stout defense that executes, doesn't make horrible defensive mistakes, if you have an offense that isn't constantly turning the ball over, where the Niners had trouble last year in the regular season when people started to doubt him, is when Purdy was throwing 4 interceptions in a game.
Well, that's also when Deebo Samuel was hurt. So
and when Samuel was hurt. So my point
personnel matters is what I mean.
Yeah, were there things in there like, is his timing with Olave where I want it to be? No, because there was that one where we were in the red zone and Olave, could have been a completion at like the 2 or 3 yard line. Olave broke where he did. Carr threw it to a spot. He threw it with the anticipation we were hoping for, but he threw it to a spot that Olave didn't break to. It's just their timing was off. That's those kind of plays. Or like, did he lead someone on a completion, like the first completion to Olave? If he theoretically threw it a little bit further in front of him, could Olave caught that and kept running? Maybe. So it's like, are those things there to critique about Derek Carr? Yeah. Were there some throws that weren't perfect throws? Yeah. But that's the difference between a quarterback on Derek Carr's level and a quarterback on a top 5 level. We're so used to watching this play, the type of play from Mahomes, the type of play from Allen, and even Drew Brees before all these guys.
That, yeah.
So like, we're so used to seeing that as fans that when we see a guy not doing, like, we've all become these fortunate or unfortunate QB experts on like where the ball is supposed to be thrown. So we see a guy like Derek Carr, like, yes, making completions but not putting it on a perfect spot, and everything's overanalyzed right now. But like, this is what we have with Derek Carr. Right. So like, it doesn't.
What I say to that is the people who are all like that critique right there.
Yeah,
100% accurate. The thing is, if you watch more football, not you particularly, but people in general watch more football, you're going to realize that that's pretty solid quarterback play.
It's special.
Right? Yeah. What Drew did is the rarity of all rarities.
Right.
What Brady, Mahomes, those are the elite of the elite. If you watch the rest of the league, you go watch Trevor Lawrence. I used to say Matt Ryan to Matt. Matt Ryan won an MVP. You go watch a Matt Ryan game.
Yeah.
It doesn't look much different than a Derek Carr game. There were really great throws, and then there were 4 or 5 a game where you were like, wow, he didn't put that in the right spot.
The thing Mahomes has games where he throws some passes, you're like, what the fuck was that?
And that's what I go back to. Like, the issues with Derek Carr for me, and I think what gets people all riled up, is when he has a bad Derek Carr game, and then we don't see the accountability come from it. Now, there was nothing for him to take accountability or responsibility for yesterday. He did fine. He didn't.
The week before.
Well, I mean, he had some pretty shitty passes the week before. He didn't throw any interceptions, but I think that's shitty or like not really like not good. Not just saying like, oh, that's a mid-level versus elite. Like last week, he just had some dial-it-in type of shit. This week, he didn't do that stuff. But the biggest thing with Derek Carr, besides the like seeing base level type of passing, that's not your top 5 level QB passing, is he or is he not causing turnovers? Is he or is he not giving the ball to the other team? If he's not giving the ball to the other team, if he's not making boneheaded decisions, not throwing a bunch of picks, then that's a really good day from a Derek Carr type quarterback. And people have to be cool.
But to be fair, he did that all last year. He was one of the least turnover quarterbacks in the league, top 5.
His stats were damn near identical to Mahomes last year.
Right. So, like, I think what you're bringing up about how critical we are of him, some of it's fair, but I think if your expectation was him to come in and be a top 6, top 10 quarterback, then your expectations were wrong. Or this was a guy that was going to be a borderline low end, like he was for years in Vegas and before that in Oakland, marginal Pro Bowl type replacement, 4th best in his conference, 5th best in his conference on a good year, 8th, 9th in his conference in a bad year, right? Puts him in this teen range somewhere, pending how the team does. He did that for many years there, was never great. If that was our expectation, we thought he was coming to a very good roster. Right. We all did. It turns out our offensive line last year was not anywhere remotely close to where we thought it could perform.
Yeah.
That derailed the season, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. I don't think it was Derek Carr. I think Derek Carr did Derek Carr for the most part, other than early in the season struggles were real, getting acquainted, and then the rib injury seemed to really set him back a little bit too. by the end of the season, he was playing great. Obviously, we all know last 6 games or whatever it was, he was the number 1 rated quarterback in the league, most touchdown passes, second or third in yards. He's not that either, guys.
Right.
That's not the real Derek Carr. That was his good run of the season. It's somewhere between those two.
Yeah.
And if we're going to roll out a bad offensive line and, in my opinion, a very marginal skill set of players, we don't have an elite skill player. We have some good ones. Olave could be elite
talent.
Elite, I guess it's how you defined elite. He's not a top
Let's
5.
say talent.
I don't think he's an elite talent. He's a very good talent.
He could make a Pro Bowl. He could be a 1,300-yard receiver. I think he can do all those things. I think he's a talented guy.
He's a top 15 talent.
But
okay, that's fair.
I don't think he's a game changer. Like, I don't think he's
by himself. Yeah.
Right. So, and AK has been that in the past. He's not today. And then we see what Shaheed turns in, and then we've got some young guys who maybe something happens. But as of today, we're kind of just a lot of medium talents on offense with a below average at best offensive line talent with all the losses we had in the offseason. So, if our expectations going in that Carr's going to excel this year, I think just your expectations are wrong.
He needs everything around him. I mean, that's what you get with a middle-of-the-road quarterback. Like, a middle-of-the-road quarterback with a bad offensive line that puts him under duress is going to look like a bottom 20 quarterback, right? Or like a 20 through 30 quarterback.
Right.
A middle-of-the-road quarterback with a great offensive line and a great running game can suddenly look like a top 10 quarterback. And so I think, there's people, the critics out there of Carr, if you ask them, did you think you were getting a top 5 QB in Derek Carr? They say, hell no, but we didn't think we were getting this. It's like, well, clearly you haven't spent much time watching what a number 12, number 13, 14, 15 QB actually looks like.
And now, like we discussed, a bottom 10 paid quarterback. You have a bottom 10 on the compensation aspect.
Because all we've seen as Saints fans is either Drew Brees or
trash.
Like, is either the best or the complete bottom of the barrel. And so we don't really know how to critique a, somewhere between 12 through 18 ranked quarterback.
I just don't know how all the people who were telling us last year that Jameis is a good quarterback can sit here and bag on Carr. Like, if you watch Jameis play quarterback at any point in the Saints' tenure, even with the year where we had 13 touchdowns and 5 interceptions or whatever.
The offense was bottom 10. By the way, when Jameis was in there, it was a terrible offense. It was a bad offense.
He's just a liability. I mean, he's an example of the could-be middle-of-the-road quarterback who has so many turnovers that makes him bottom of the barrel.
The truth is, we were just a miserable fucking fan base that just doesn't want to be in touch with reality. Drew is one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time.
Well, why would we want reality?
We cannot compare every other quarterback that comes down the pipeline to Drew Brees. Any other quarterback that plays for the Saints, they're going to get compared unfairly to Brees, but that's unfair. Yeah. The reality is Carr is somewhere around the 16th or 17th best quarterback in the league. He's compensated as the 16th or 17th best quarterback in the league. Yeah. As Nick said, if you surround him with a good offensive line, some solid weapons, and a good defense, you can probably win a game or two in the playoffs. Yeah. We have not surrounded him with a good offensive line or really good weapons. And
or they're hurt. Right.
Yeah. And it still comes up to his decision-making, because, like, there have been times where he'll go away from, like, the shot play or go away from the dagger type ball in situations where we want him to, and then there's other situations.
I don't know about that at all, man. He's good with the deep ball.
No, he's good.
Man, with it. Who the best ever was taking a guarantee over the shot? Drew Brees. No, he was the best ever at that.
I'm saying, like, there were other situations where Carr has thrown the deep ball and done it well, but then which kind of like makes
last year that Sheed freaking run and he hit him for the dagger.
Right. So people see that and they think, oh, well, okay, so if there's a guy remotely, or like what the fan thinks is quote-unquote open down the field, and Carr's not hitting that dude down the field, they're like, well, what the hell was that? He just checked it down. He had the guy in the seam. What's going on there? He doesn't, but that's
us fans not even knowing the route progression on the play. Right. Was he getting hit? Was he,
So there's, but again, it's like, Brees didn't have any hesitation on his decision when he knew
he was better.
He knew 1 through 4, but right, and so that's what we're used to. And so when people see a QB like Carr go through first read, second read, neither of them are there, and then have any hesitation whatsoever. They're like, this dude sucks. He can't make up his mind. And it's like, well, that's just what QBs do. Like, it sucks. It's not pretty to watch, but sometimes it happens. It's not every single play. It's just that when you see it, you notice it more than the mundane plays.
And back to what you were saying, if he's not turning it over. Last year, the metric for like negative play, QB play, I think he was second in the league for avoiding negative plays.
Wow.
Sacks, fumbles, interceptions, but that's not the narrative we saw because, we just felt it was always so crucial when he would make a mistake.
Yeah, they were big mistakes.
And we, instead of saying why the defense give up 3 touchdowns in the first quarter, we'd be like, he threw that pick 6. And, we just, for some reason, wanted to focus on everything Carr was doing and not. I mean, our defense had a really bad run for about 6 weeks last year in the middle of the season.
Yeah, they did.
That really hurt us.
Yeah.
I mean, he would have had to score 30-plus a game, like the old Breeze days, just to be in those games. And most of the time, we were there. Even Detroit, where it was a complete meltdown,
Unexpected.
we came all the way back,
Yeah.
had the ball down by 1 score when it got knocked out of his hands by Hurst, where they could have gone up head in that game.
The Detroit and Jags come to mind.
Especially the drop by Moreau, that fumble, then obviously the Green Bay injury. Those 3 games are what decides playoffs and not playoffs, in my opinion. And you can put some of that on Carr, absolutely. There was a pick 6 in the Detroit game. Jags, he played poorly in the first half. Green Bay, he got hurt. I don't think you can blame him for that. Obviously, we were up 17-0 starting the second half. He gets hurt immediately. That's what decides playoffs in the NFL right now for the mediocre teams like we are. We easily could have won 3 more games, and we probably could find 2 or 3 games that we easily could have lost as well. We ended up 9-8. Probably should have been a 10-7 team if we're being fair about it. And that's the difference. Now, Breeze gave us a little more margin. If we were a good team, he would make sure that those games didn't happen.
Right.
Carr is not that level and never will be. Now, the part that I think, again about the turnovers, that should be the measure of his success this year. If his turnovers are below 10, or let's say interceptions are below 10 again this year, this defense looks better than last year.
Yeah.
And I think we need to judge that he's keeping the defense in the game.
Keeping them in the game by keeping them off the field.
Correct. Let's control the ball.
Yeah.
Let's not turn it over. Let's not put them in bad positions. Even if it's just 2 first downs and pin them deep, it's going to be more of that look than we've seen since Peyton got here.
I mean, if you could tell this defense, especially with the aging guys we have, it's not a young defense. It just isn't. There are some young guys, yes, but it's not a young defense. If you could tell that defense, hey, we're going to give you the ability to only be on the field for like 12 to 13 minutes of the game. How's that sound?
Right.
They'd be like,
and that's what I was going to say.
Or maybe not that, like the first half, sorry.
The one old guy we can't afford to go backwards is DeMario.
Yeah.
We have people to fill in for Cam now.
But I mean, if you said like we'll win the time of possession battle, so you're not playing more than 30 minutes. You're playing like 20, 25 max. They'll be like, please.
Yeah. So I think we're a defensive team now. It has to be. And then this type of offense, maybe it can run clock and keep us in games. And if Carr can just make that play when it counts, they can win some games. But
with this offensive scheme, we just got to see him get Penning some confidence. Yeah. I think yesterday was a solid confidence builder for him because he didn't fuck up. It wasn't like the week before where he was getting shoved around.
Yeah, it's like I said, the fact that he went mostly unnoticed was a gigantic improvement.
Yeah.
That's kind of the thing.
I agree.
If you don't want the O-lineman, as an O-lineman, you don't want your name called in a game. And we didn't have any reason to say, Penning. Were there a couple reps where he just got pushed back very easily? Yeah, but it wasn't enough to, get to the quarterback. We didn't have any glaring situations where we were like, fuck, Penning.
No, I hardly noticed him yesterday, which was obviously a good thing. Like Landon Young on the other side playing for Fuaga, he got a few rough plays, but he did okay too. So the offensive line was a lot better yesterday.
They ran it way better. There's no debate in that.
Yeah.
Well, I think back to the Penning's confidence level, it giving him more run plays.
Exactly, run plays. Let him turn loose. Let him go. Just smack somebody.
Because he will eat on some of the ones that he had trouble with. I think he did a better job of it yesterday. But any runs that are away from his side with that zone scheme require a lot of athleticism out of the backside blockers to get across the face of their man. So if you got a defensive end lined up, whether it's in front of you or in a wide 9 or even a 7 technique, like as the right tackle, if the play's going left, you have to really fight to get left and turn your body to cross the face of that end. If not, what you saw in the Cardinals game where Penning just gets washed to the front side of the play and runs into his own runner. He did a better job yesterday of holding up the backside versus letting it collapse, which is what you need. That's why you see cutbacks out of Mims, or when you see a running back see it clogged and bounce back, they're able to bounce back because the backside defender's not free to tackle him.
Yeah, and to circle back on my original point like 15 minutes ago, like if we had a running back with any real burst,
yeah,
or just juice in general,
yeah.
I think the runs go for a lot further than they did, and we're talking even more positively about the offensive line's performance.
Those bounce backs by Mims, if that is a healthy Kendre Miller, then you could see those going for a while.
Yeah, I really hope we get to see excuse me, Kendre at some point next week. I don't know what his injury status is as of today, but he really needs to get on the field. I mean, this is just...
We need him taking double-digit carries, in my opinion, for that run game.
Yeah.
AK still gets the bulk, but AK 20 carries, you really want...
No, it needs to be the Ingram AK split from 2017.
It really does.
Yeah.
And
AK's not built because with this type of mindset and on offense, it's one where your run game gets a momentum. Just like you say your passing game gets a rhythm, your run game gets a momentum. When you got these guys on their heels, you're going to probably call a few ISO plays in a row if you can do it. Like run, if it ain't broke, don't fix type of running play calls. And AK's not the one who should be the tailback to run it 3-4 times in a row. You're like, yeah, sure, it's working. The fullback's laying people out. The O-line's getting pushed. But, yeah, AK's not the one you want to be the battering ram for 3 or 4 times. You would hope, that's more of a Kendre, or spell him with even Taysom, And
even Taysom, you don't want him getting that many carries because his body's going to break down.
Yeah. We saw as soon as we started featuring him last year, he got hurt after 3 games. He's got to keep that nice, steady balance,
What is he, 34?
Yeah, going to be 35 this year, right?
Yeah. I mean, there's no way to tell. I mean, I think at least if with him being a lead blocker, he's at a point of being the aggressor, so he's not, running and dodging people and making weird angular cuts that can fuck up a knee. But, if you're a lead blocker, yes, you're the aggressor, but at the same time, hitting NFL linebackers play after play can take a toll on the old noggin.
Let's talk about defense a little bit.
Yep.
So, Foskey is terrible.
Yeah, who's that?
Exactly. I think he's on the side of a milk carton if you go to your local grocery store today.
It's discouraging to not see any improvement from him because...
I think he had a pressure yesterday, so he made it onto the stat sheet.
Yeah, and then him...
A couple tackles, I think, too.
Did he?
Yeah,
Okay.
the bad would have been that,
Now, Peyton Turner was getting pressure, but he missed every damn sack
that
he could
whiff
have had.
was so bad.
That looked
whiff
bad.
was so bad.
We got... And then Jordan Howden.
Oh,
that's the one I was going to bring up.
We got on, flipping through Instagram last night and saw, us in the wrong way. You want to see us on like 2 national accounts. It was like NFL or Sports Center, and the first one was like the Pastronaut is back, and it was Howden getting juked out of his shoes by Dobbs, and then NFL or whatever was like, if you're going to avoid a sack, that's how you avoid a sack, and it showed Peyton Turner just like, trying to make a tackle with only his arm, and you're like, just like, I get if you're a defensive end trying to go for the ball, but that dude is like 8 inches shorter than you.
Wrap him up.
Get a little bit lower, maybe. Use your shoulder. I don't know.
Last year's draft class, not very impressive as of right now.
Oh, who else? I mean, Masaldaveri's just hurt.
Well, Brzee was fantastic. He looks great. I feel like
outside of Brzee, I mean, Hainer was last year too.
I feel like Brzee and Chase Young, just the two of them together are going to wreak havoc this year if they stay healthy. Past that, what do you have? So you got Hainer didn't look good yesterday, so let's see. Saldiveri hasn't played. Kendre Miller hasn't played. Who are the other ones? Jordan Howden looked atrocious. He's, by all accounts, 3rd on the depth chart now.
He didn't start yesterday. They started Harris.
Couple pods
He didn't
ago,
start the week before either.
when they brought
I thought he
in
at least started versus AZ. Okay.
Jonathan Abram.
when they brought in Simmons, that's what we said.
That told you about
It's like,
it.
why are they bringing in Simmons? They must not be sold
Convinced,
on Howden.
yeah.
Because that was late in the game to bring him in, especially for like Max brought up many times. We seem to be trying to not sign these older vets and trying to get younger and look towards, a couple years from now to bring in a 30-year-old safety. Something was wrong with the safety room, period. And they were looking for a 1-year fix to maybe address it next offseason. I don't know, but he hadn't looked good. Last year, we brought up the game. He looked terrible. He just got worked off the field. And then he came back and had a great game the following game. So we saw a lot of ups and downs with him. Maybe we're hoping it's an anomaly, but it hadn't looked good. I mean, that was a perfectly drawn up defensive play. Dobbs had nowhere to go. He got juked out of his mind.
Yeah.
I mean, safety's in perfect position.
Come on, Nick. It's just because we all know that Dobbs is a rocket scientist and he knew the perfect angle to take.
Yeah.
He made the calculation in his head in a split second. That's why he, made that cut.
I think it's just because he was playing the Saints, because we saw last year he was benched 2 weeks later.
Josh
didn't play
Dobbs
again.
is a Pro Bowler against the Saints now.
That's
like
right.
It's solidified. I
No, he's a Hall of Famer.
It's preseason, sure, but between the Vikings game last year and now this, it's like, bro, come on.
Yeah, but back to the original point, it's our drafting has been so bad, and that is what is directly impacting the fortunes of this team. It's well documented how we missed on Marcus Davenport, and that was 2 first-round picks.
2 first.
You missed on Penning, which cost us the pick that could have been Jalen Carter.
Yeah.
You missed on what's his name, Peyton Turner. He's a wasted pick. And then you start talking about like the mid-round picks and like just looking at last year's, just as we went through it, it's not good. Those are the guys. They got to be contributors in some form or fashion. Maybe it turns around. Maybe Saldiveri comes back and claims the left guard job, and he's the guy for the next 5 or 6 years. But, dude, it does not look good right now. And the fact that A.T. Perry was still in the game with 30 seconds left in the game, I mean,
Yeah, I mean, he's been hurt, so maybe to get him some more time. But no, I mean,
he played last week and had a 50-yard catch.
Yeah, I mean, Bub Memes got more action than him early on in this one.
I know.
I mean, look, but which good for Bub Beams, but again, like,
I mean,
you want more out of AT.
It was pretty negative about Bub until
he
recently,
got in. Yeah.
right? Yeah. So I'm not going to read too much of him being in there. Max brought that up, and maybe that's a thing. I don't know. I'm more concerned of the terrible drop he had, but he looked good before that. Again, I thought he made a couple difficult catches.
Which one you talking about? AT or Bub?
AT.
Beams? Yeah,
AT.
Yeah. AT's drop.
It's. I think we really need him to be good. So maybe I'm just hopeful. He's shown some really good flashes last year and in the preseason. I really hope it's not going well in practice, and that's why he's in the game late. But he's very young too, and he needs reps. So
I'm going to be 25.
Well, young in the league.
Yeah,
I mean, he didn't play much.
Right.
How many snaps did he play last year?
Second year pro.
Right.
Yeah.
He needs reps, and I'm hoping that's what it was. So does Bud Means, obviously. And I think they want to see if they have a roster player in Bud Means probably, or if he's practice squad, and wanted to see him more with upper left, see what he could do.
Yeah.
Looked okay to me, actually.
Yeah, he was on some good plays. Yeah.
So we'll see. That's a rough room in my opinion for us. I think it's a very, very mediocre.
I agree. Right now it's Olave and Shaheed, and that's it, man.
Well, it's like the safety spot, like DA said. No one has come out and just grabbed that spot, and I think with the receivers, same thing. Like, no one has just jumped out and taken that number 3 or 4 receiver role.
I don't think there's anyone there to jump out and take it, though.
I mean, yes and no. I mean,
well, think back to when
it's that time of year where guys do jump out, like where the unexpected guys come out of the woodwork and show, like, oh, that
we
guy's
got
doing
one
it.
more preseason game left, dude. I don't think there ain't much more time for somebody to jump out.
That's what I'm saying.
The guy that was jumping out was Mason Tipton,
right?
But he's been hurt, so he might not even make the team now. Look, it goes back to what we talked about before the draft, and we all expressed concern about having a big-bodied receiver who can go make the physical catch. That's why we all wanted Brock Bowers.
Yeah.
But the reality is the offensive line deficiency is so much greater than the tight end deficiency, and it's a much more important position that they kind of had to pick Fuaga.
Yeah, and
Bowers wasn't there anyway.
God willing,
but
Fuaga gets healthy, because you want to talk about bad to worse
we mentioned
situation.
this. We mentioned this last week,
and now I'm like, God, we it's good to bring up the the things to sound good, like that's a podcast. Like we sounded incredibly smart at the time. Now I'm like, damn it. Is it because we brought it up? Is it because we brought up the depth thing? That everyone's talking about Fuaga Penning, Lucas Patrick, Salaberry. Who's going to be the guys? No one's like, has anyone talked about what happens if any one of those dudes goes down?
I'll say this, so I'm glad you said
like,
the word depth, because if we had the depth on the offensive line that we have at the cornerback position, my God, we would be set. Yeah. Can we talk about how impressive the corners are? Like, we go like 7 deep.
They said Rico Payton.
He's an undrafted rookie.
Was someone, I think maybe Ross Jackson had the stat, or T-Bob, one of the guys on the radio waves that I was listening to, said he's been targeted either the most or second most among cornerbacks in the preseason, and he's still held up with like a 36% completion percentage when thrown against, and I forget how many pass like PBUs, but he's been stellar.
Yeah, and I was telling Nick before you got here, after seeing the depth in action again, this is the time. If you're not going to have Lattimore in the team in 2025, go ahead and explore what you can get for him that can help you this season. And I'm speaking specifically of an offensive lineman.
Offense, yeah.
Because if you have a team that desperately needs a corner, and that's what's going to keep them out of the playoffs, and they might. But
don't you think the chance to trade him for more value would probably be if he does play?
If he does,
and you have a team that has a need that's in contention.
Well, the play would
probably
the play would be you play him, you have him do well, be the Marshawn we all know and love, and then wait for that team whose cornerback is vital to their success goes down. And
but then you're depending on him playing and being healthy.
Right, but the compensation we were hearing doesn't move the needle for us.
Right.
That we heard in the offseason.
We've heard a second at best.
At best. That does not much for us.
I don't think anyone,
why not take the risk and wait it out and see if you can get something like you're talking about, a team with an abundance of offensive line talent.
Right now, if the play was, all right, we don't pay other team, we got Marshawn. We don't want to talk to you about draft picks as compensation. We want to talk about your offensive linemen, specifically your tackles. I don't think there's a team out there with a tackle that's any better than like what you already have, or Ali Udo. That's going to be like, oh, great. Well, give us Marshawn. Here's this guy who we think could be really good at tackle.
No. The scenario I floated to Nick before you got here was like, okay, Mekhi Becton, first round pick, top 10 pick, I believe, was on the Jets for about two or 3 years. He just got released, and he went to the Eagles. So he was the guy I was hoping we would bring in for a visit. That's the kind of guy you're looking for. Someone who was a high draft pick, probably top 15 or maybe even just first round, but for whatever reason hasn't performed to the level of where he was drafted. That's the kind of guy you're looking for. Maybe he's just had an injury or two. Maybe he's just underperformed, and you're hoping a change of scenery. But like, the talent is there.
The team knows the talent's there. They're tired of trying to develop them.
Right. That's the situation you're looking for. I'm not saying you're going to go trade, Lattimore for Trent Williams.
Oh, God, no.
Or, you know what I mean?
Not that good. But
no, you know what I mean. Like, that's not happening.
Or even like a younger...
Right. No one's giving up a stud left tackle or a stud right tackle. But someone probably would give up a first-round pick who's maybe in year 2 or 3, who's underperformed a little bit but hasn't been bad.
Or someone that's past their prime that's a starter, even.
I wouldn't do that. I would want somebody young. I'd rather someone who's underachieved a little bit or maybe just had an injury or two.
He wants the Chase Young of tackles.
Yeah, honestly, the Chase Young of tackles. That's kind of what I'm looking for.
Well, start scanning the rosters for neck injuries.
Yep, that's tough.
I mean, I bet you could have, you could...
Look, I think someone's gonna get cut that we're not expecting.
Yeah,
you have to be ready to sign that person. That's where I'm at with it, and I think you do wait out Lattimore just because a second for Lattimore. I think you're probably better off trying to put an elite defense out there, like crazy good defense out there, than to go get a tackle that's marginal.
If Lat plays well, like to his Pro Bowl standard, it ups the price on him significantly.
You're not getting a first for him. No matter
I'm not saying
what.
you're going to get a first, but in terms of it just ups your price. And then if a team's like, yeah, come on, Mickey, you're not going to re-sign this dude. Mickey can be like, you want to see how much money I've spent in the past? Don't tell me I'm not going to go.
They don't need to re-sign
berserk
him. They don't need to re-sign him. He's under contract for another couple of years.
Is it that long? Well, whatever it is.
Yeah. So the whole thing is,
or extend him.
What is he? 28.
28.
Yeah. So.
And
I just don't think he's going to be on the team next year.
I think this is his 28th year too. I don't think he turns 29. I think he already.
I think
28.
you're right. But look at the team. So you got Paulson Adebo, who is going to be due a new contract after this season.
But I think they're waiting that out too.
No, they are.
What's Adebo going to want? Like that's part of this equation.
Oh yeah, for sure.
If Adebo plays well, you might end up having teams that want to pay you more for him.
Correct.
Than Lattimore.
You would get more for Adebo, I think.
Yeah.
But the thing is, you would have to franchise him or transition tag him. But that's the thing. You still got Kool-Aid and you still got Alontae Taylor. So they could conceivably trade Lattimore and Adebo if the price is wrong for.
I don't.
It'd
see
be
that
risky as all
happening.
hell, but
yeah.
Well, I think you're seeing more, at least from the preseason. The regular season is really the test, but Alontae is seemingly fitting in a lot better at that slot.
I'm just saying I would not be shocked if in 2 years Adebo and Lattimore are not on the team.
Yeah.
I think their goal is to keep one of them, preferably Adebo, unless the price tag's
too.
too high.
I do too.
Because he's 2 years younger. I think 2 years younger.
3 years, I think.
Is he?
He's
I thought he
barely
was
older than Alontae, even though he came out.
Yeah,
a year
Alontae's 26 this year, though, right? Or are
he's-
they not both 26 this year?
No, I think one's 20. They might both be 25.
Okay. Either way.
Yeah, either way.
I think they would prefer to sign him as long as the price isn't Pro Bowl corner price.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I don't think they would, or I wouldn't think that the mindset would be to let both of them go and hope Kool-Aid and move Alontae outside and not have a slot guy all at the same time. I think that would be.
I don't think it'll all be at the same time, but I could see it happen within a few months of each other, But I do think you're right. Like the post cuts, the first position they're going to look at is offensive line. The second position, bet your ass, running back. They're going to look for someone who's got some speed, who gets released, and there's going to be somebody. That's the position I feel like you could really pick up someone who has a chance of having an impact.
Yeah.
There's so many running backs in the league. Like
Some of these fast rookies that just couldn't make the roster.
I mean, most teams carry 3 or 4 running backs.
Yeah.
Dude, we all play fantasy football. We all look at the who's available and all that. There are some damn decent prospects that are available that are probably going to get cut.
There are a lot of guys
Or practice squad.
that are fantastic reality football pickups that would be horrible fantasy football pickups. Like guys who are going to be a third stringer for the entire year, but they're fast as hell.
Shit, man. If they come here, you might be a second stringer before you know it. And then with injuries, you might start some games.
Yep.
So that's what I'm looking at. I'm looking at offensive linemen and running backs in the post cuts.
And there will be options.
Shit, wide receivers too.
There absolutely will be options.
Yeah.
There every year. Now, I'm not saying you're going to get a star, but there's going to be an option to at least pressure Penning and take that spot if we see the same thing that happened last year.
I hope you're right.
They could just as easily cut Andrews Pete and we bring him back.
That's true.
Because he's not a
backup
starter.
right
he
now,
doesn't make any money. There's
Actually watched a little bit of the replay of the Raiders game from this past week, and Pete was looking pretty good. It was kind of depressing. I'm like, oh, good for you, but I'll say, fuck.
He was a backup though, right?
He's
second team on the depth chart.
He was running with their ones in that game.
Must be an injury or something then.
I don't know.
So then
on their official depth chart, he's second.
Or they're trying him out with the first string because he was in there with like Minshew and Zamir White, and they're the Raiders apparently according to their coach, they were like we're gonna play starters as long as we can, so they were out there.
Maybe there's someone in their roster they'll cut. Who knows? I don't know. Somebody's going to pop up.
There are running backs all over the place.
Yeah.
I mean, you've been the biggest proponent ever of saying don't draft running backs high.
Nope.
You can get them late. And to that end, there's a shit ton of them that are floating around that are fringe, making the team. So,
Yeah.
But they could actually make an impact.
Yeah. We shall see. Anything else on the defense? I mean, we talked about what wasn't great, but anything else you liked?
Again, it wasn't all their starters, but they shut Purdy down, no problem. They were missing their best
They were
two
missing
receivers.
Debo, they were missing Kittle,
wasn't
they were
really
missing
playing.
Ayuk.
Yeah.
McCaffrey wasn't playing. So you can't
Yeah.
read much into it, but they absolutely shut him down. I mean, it was
As they should have at
Yeah.
that point.
so
I feel great about the defense. I think the defense is the floor for the defense is top 10.
Yeah.
And I feel like their ceiling, they could be top.
They
They
could
could be
be
top 3.
way up there,
They
yeah.
really could be.
I think it's better than last year.
I agree. I think Chase Young is the year 2, Brian Brzee, Chase Young being on the team, just those two, and then Cam accepting the role of being, more of a rushing down defensive end and sliding inside on passing
They
downs.
say he's cut like 15 pounds.
Yeah, dude, that defensive line is going to be nasty.
Yeah,
the
they should be.
linebackers are going to be nasty.
Stronger.
The linebackers
secondary
are
stronger.
And I want to see
defensive line is stronger.
I want
All
to see
three.
Willie Gay tested again, because we bitched a lot about the mobile quarterbacks, and we saw it again with Dobbs. But but that was against our second string defense, right?
They weren't in there. Right?
We didn't
weren't
have
in there,
the defense we're going to roll out, like the starters, to hopefully cure or at least get better at that mobile quarterback proposition. So I think we have the right guys. I just want to see them do it.
I'll tell you though, Nick's right. I think this is a better defense than last year.
Yeah.
And look, the only weakness that I can point out is saying is
safety,
strong safety.
Yeah.
Or free safety, which I don't know where they have.
The non-honey badger safety.
The non-honey badger safety. That is the weakness.
Yeah.
Because you got I think we all love Jonathan Abrams' demeanor and the way he plays. He's a downhill, get up to the line.
Yeah.
And, Howden, we don't really know what he is yet. Mm-hmm. I'm not very enthusiastic. Who's the other one? Will Allen, I think it is.
Harris?
Will Harris. He started yesterday.
Is it Will or Chris Harris?
It's Will. Chris was on the team a couple years ago.
Yeah, he was the corner.
That's
right.
So Harris started yesterday.
Yeah.
So Howden's firmly third team at this point.
Yeah. Harris looked, I think, like maybe a better cover, like for coverage.
He plays corner as well. So he should be a better.
Because I forget who was in coverage on the cornerback, but one of the plays, that AC Slater Sanchez was talking about, where the cornerback was knew he had to help to the inside, so was walling off the sideline. Then you saw Harris there, ready to help break up the play if he had. He didn't have to. Maybe it's a Rico Payton play, but that was encouraging to see from Harris. I think Abram. It's not that he can't do that. It's just that he seems, like you said, more geared to just blowing somebody up.
Yeah, and to my original point,
Second
that's
level.
the only position on the defense that I'm concerned about.
Yeah.
Everything else, I think, is better than last year.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Every level's better. I mean,
every level.
The one thing we had a big problem with last year, in my opinion, was defensive line. That's why we struggled against the run. We struggled with pass rush.
Yeah.
We got way better. Part of it just by having a year experience for the young guys. Granderson coming off his best year. Chase Young being healthy on the quickest timeline imaginable for that surgery.
I think we were all shocked by that one.
Shocked.
Yeah. So, I mean, the defensive line's way better than last year. There's no debate, and that was the big weakness of the defense. The secondary held up pretty damn well last year.
They did.
The running quarterbacks, albeit we did play a lot of bad quarterbacks, but the crappy bad quarterbacks were all able to run on us. Yeah. Everyone that we played. So we need to shore that up, but I mean, linebackers,
everything's better.
Well,
look at corner. So we lost Yadam, but you added Kool-Aid.
Mm-hmm.
You added Rico Payton, who looks fantastic so far. Shamar John Charles has looked fantastic, and Wright.
Yeah.
So, God, that cornerback room is crazy. Yeah. We went from having no cornerbacks back in the day. That was always a thing. Like, hey, can he play safety? Can he play corner? When you sign somebody, that cornerback room is fucking stout.
Yeah.
And as much as we bitch about DA, the one thing he does, he can I mean, like,
I'm like, is he bringing these guys in off the street? Like, he's on his way home from work. Like, excuse me, son.
I can work with you.
I think you ever played football before?
He could take one of us and somehow plug us in. It's wild, though. It's like they have obviously nailed the scouting of the defensive backs. Yeah. They've nailed it.
The not
specifically the
corners, defensive backs.
Right. And it's like, why the fuck can we not scout defensive linemen? Like, Chase Young was kind of a no-brainer signing because you kind of have to take a chance on the guy with that much upside.
The defensive ends, like, I haven't been,
I mean, Granderson was an undrafted guy. We whiffed horribly on the 2 first-round picks, which were both 3 first-round picks combined.
Yeah. And I haven't seen the
Foskey
prognosis,
was a 2.
But
Brzee, they nailed Brzee. Brzee's going to be
Christian
really good.
Boyd.
Christian Boyd is now he got banged up.
Yeah,
I'm concerned about that.
What the diagnosis was on that, but
he was
I was worried
his
about
leg,
that.
but I couldn't. They didn't say anything about it. I don't think I saw.
Yeah, I don't think it's anything serious. Hopefully,
yeah, because he could be good. He looks like a beast, and he was. Playing,
I think he's key to the run.
Playing pretty
defense.
well. I mean, any videos I saw in camp when they're showing drills and one-on-ones and team, I'm like, wait, who's 97 again? I'm like, oh yeah, that's a draft pick.
He's the only true nose.
that
we have. And you notice Saunders is now running third team. So Brzee, they talked about it yesterday. Brzee is now officially he's passed him up. So it's him and Shepard or your two primaries. But Boyd, I'm telling you, Boyd's the key to the run defense. Because that's a position that gets undervalued every year in the draft. Yeah. You know what I mean? And those are the guys you can get in the third, fourth, fifth round, and they can come in and have an impact in year one.
Defense more so than the offense is connected. Where obviously you need a good O-line for offense to even run properly, but running backs, receivers can operate independently with the defense. It's like you're a better D-line, an improved D-line means that you've got more space.
Fixes everything.
You got more space for the linebackers to run around, and our linebackers are ones you want without the big boys coming out to them, which will help with your mobile quarterback situation. Like last year, I felt like DeMario and Warner, they're trying to whoever's in there. When the QB started scrambling, our linebackers are stuck on offensive guards and tackles, trying to shed blocks from guys who are 200 pounds heavier or 100 pounds heavier than them, and an improved defensive line means they can run free.
Yeah.
And look, then, it's all connected. Like your cornerbacks can play better because the QBs
it starts up front and it goes all the way down.
Yeah, so it's like that D-line is seriously improved. That's why
if they can rush the passer, dude.
That's what makes that defense take a next step.
If Chase Young stays healthy, that dude is putting up 13 sacks. I'm just telling you right now.
Yeah.
And that is only going to free up Granderson to do more than the 8.5, 9 he had last year.
Yeah.
And in Brzee, I think you're going to see him creep up to like 7 or 8.
Yeah. Because, Chase Young will know how to finish a sack. He won't be doing that whiff clothesline shit that Peyton Turner did.
Dude, can we talk about how different he looks? Like, just you look at him physically standing next to all the other ones. Yeah, and I know they list Foskey as being 5 pounds heavier than Chase Young. I am not buying that for a second.
But is Foskey as tall?
They list them both as 6'5".
They do not look like the same person.
They do not look. That's my point.
Close.
You and I saw Chase Young at the Pels game when we were courtside,
right,
a couple months ago. He is fucking enormous.
Yeah, I would put him like, when we were having like,
he looks like one of those statues in Rome that came to life.
When we were getting compromised when Zion would come out, I'd be like, can just put Young in because he'll
look like he can match up with Zion.
He'll man up at the power forward.
Yeah.
Yeah, he looks like a bulldozer. It's kind of
first one off the bus, like we said.
He won't have to worry about whether or not he's making like the whiff clothesline tackle because he's just, you could tell with his bull rush move, with his agility, he's going to be where the quarterback is sometimes on account of because. Like either the QB is going to drift into him or he's just. I haven't seen a rep from him yet where he's not a minimum of 3 yards in the backfield.
Yeah, and I wasn't expecting to see him until September.
Yeah.
And the fact that he's just been like a Tasmanian devil on every play so far. That transforms the defense.
It goes back to everybody else. Just for the love of God, stay healthy. Like whatever you have to do.
Yeah, and look, we can bag on DA for his lack of skills as a head coach and as a communicator and for all of that.
For not knowing what a metaphor is.
But the reality is that dude can coach defense.
Yeah, the problem is the best coordinators are always going to be chosen to be head coaches.
Yeah.
It's just
the truth is he's an elite coordinator.
He's a coordinator.
He's an elite.
And that's what he should be.
The more coordinating he can be doing this year, and I mean, if someone came to me and was like, "Listen, the Saints got together, they huddled up, they think their best formula for actually winning games from the coaching strategy standpoint is to let DA only be the defensive coordinator, let Kubiak only be the offensive coordinator, and Darren Rizzi's going to worry about all the stupid head coaching decisions." I'd be like,
I think he's given up the offense completely. I think that was part of the
deal. If someone said someone else is just going to worry about timeouts and like pregame speeches and all that shit, and DA's just going to be defense, I'm like that.
Man,
that's fine.
If Penning was just an average starter, I'd feel so much better.
Well, Ryan's tweet from last night, I think, put it best. He was fine. Like last night was fine.
That's all he needs to do. Just be fine.
But he hasn't been. You can't say one game.
Oh no,
and
right.
He's fine,
it's not fixed. I want to see, and I guess good point we did last time. Looking ahead to next week, we got the Titans coming at home. The Saints have 2 practices. Tomorrow night, Tuesday, is going to be at Ullman. Friday night.
Maybe I can go now.
Friday, yeah, because we're not going to talk about
jury duty
and who has it and what courtroom they're in on the air, but that might free you up to do it. And then Friday night, the Saints are going to be at the Superdome with an open practice, 7 o'clock. So Titans come in on Sunday. What I want to see. Anybody that had anything to do with the 16-play, 8-minute, and 17-second drive this past Sunday does not need to play except for Trevor Penning. I want Carr
to play. Carr needs to play. Look, you were upset with him in the first game. And I'm willing to give him the benefit of the doubt because it's the first game.
If it's Carr playing with Olave, like
No. I think they all need to play a series or two.
Okay.
I mean, it's a new offense for all of them.
Yeah, I don't want to see anybody else getting hurt.
It's not like it's the Sean Payton offense and, Breeze was in year 7 or 8 and you're like, oh, yeah, he doesn't need to play. Yeah. This is the opposite. These guys need a few more reps. Penning needs to play the whole fucking...
That's what I'm saying. I want...
But I want to see the rest of them, too.
Yeah.
And I don't think Fuaga is going to be back yet, so you're looking at Landon Young, I guess Lucas Patrick, McCoy, Ruiz, Penny.
Get Udo more snaps at...
Udo was
right
in
tackle.
late yesterday, man.
Yeah, it took a while.
So...
But just, figure something.
Look, I want to see Carr, I want to see Olave, I want to see them all again for at least a quarter.
I doubt we'll get Carr and Olave in there. I don't know. It could be wrong. But
we'll see, but they're not in a position where they just don't need the reps. It's not like they're Michael Penix and he just doesn't need to play anymore after the coach saw the one series.
Because he mastered football in one preseason game?
in one drive.
Right. Of course he did.
Which is there's something amiss with that. I don't know.
Well, people love to when something we've seen it with their own team when something fits the agenda.
The only thing I can think there is they don't want him out there looking great.
Yeah,
yet because of the situation and Cousins being pissed and they've invested all that money, they don't want the chance of him looking so good that becomes a narrative. That's the only thing I can think of.
That makes sense. The Vikings should call the Falcons up and see if they want to trade Cousins back to him.
Someone tweeted that out. It was like with like an actual breakdown of like.
Oh, really? I didn't see that.
Cousins seems to really fit the system with the Vikings. And it seems like he would be a good match. And then the guy was like, "Here, I've even photoshopped him into a Vikings uniform."
That's good. That's really good.
Yeah.
No, I mean, other than that, I think that's what I want to see out of the game. I want to see the starters. I want to see one more good drive like that.
Okay.
And then I'll feel a lot better. Get the offensive line as many reps as possible. I do not want to see Brzee. I do not want to see Chase Young. I don't want to see them playing at all.
I don't want to see Taysom out there.
I don't want to see Taysom out there.
Yeah.
Who else? Honestly, I don't need to see the Honey Badger.
I honestly don't want to see McCoy and Ruiz out there. We don't need any O-linemen, any true starters. But
they need
reps,
chemistry,
man. They need chemistry.
They need to work with each other because
they're going to have to pick up the slack on the other ones.
I agree. If we lose one, it's really bad.
One of those two.
The bigger thing is you cannot lose Chase Young. You cannot lose Brzee. You can't.
Yeah. Then we're right back to where we were.
Exactly. Yeah. So to me, those two, wrap them in bubble wrap and just leave them, in the Saints facility for the next 3 weeks. Oh, well, so now that they're back in town, what's the over-under on number of players who pass out from the heat since they've been in California coasting for the last 3 weeks?
Well, at least we know 2 of their practices next week are going to be, one of them is going to be inside in the dome.
Right.
And then the other one at Ullman's at 7 o'clock.
Dude, there's going to be some people huffing and puffing.
It'll still be hot. It'll be
right
humid
now,
as
man.
shit. You'll definitely be a lot of people cramping up and all the experts that attend Ullman, which could be us. Who knows? When a guy goes down with the cramps, you'll be like, "Oh, something's wrong with that dude. Look, he just went down." It's like it's cramps.
I mean, we'll probably be cramping up in the stands. It's hot.
I don't cramp them. It never happened. Flawless hamstrings.
If only Lattimore had your
elite
it's
athleticism.
Too bad, man.
Yeah.
It's too
He'd
bad.
be back already.
Gosh,
get that Chase Young recovery.
Yeah.
But other than that, what else? Anything else that we haven't mentioned? You guys are looking for in the game, or just no injuries? Obviously,
I think we covered it. I mean, just stay healthy. At this point, stay healthy. If you want to get a little more reps in the game situation, the things you can't replicate, like the fourth down fullback dive to Taysom in the end zone. You're right. You can't really replicate the competitiveness and the urgency at the same time that a game situation brings with your first stringers. But at the same time, while it might be nice to see that for one more series, I really just want us to just go into the season uninjured, healthy.
Well, we already missed that.
Yeah. Well, or just let Rattler and Hainer get a chance to redeem themselves.
Well, they need to play. So
get them more confidence so that if Carr does go down at some point during the regular season, the last thing they remember from being on the field isn't a horrible performance. I mean, they could still have a bad performance, but at least give them enough reps to redeem themselves, give them the right call some exotic plays with them just to see how they can handle it.
I want to see Carr for 2 drives.
Yeah. One,
if it ends up being the 95-yard drive. If he does that on the first drive, pull him out.
Yeah,
we're good.
I'd be good with that. And first home, it's a home game, so maybe for the sense of letting the fans see the starters, maybe they factor that in. They probably don't.
Are you going?
Yeah, I'll probably go. I always go to preseason games.
Yeah,
Come on.
you do, man.
You get those good seats, man. You get the best deals in the dome, dude.
Yeah, not for me in the
You can see the
preseason.
renovations. Apparently, it's all renovated now. It's all finished.
I like to see it all in week 1.
See, I'm always stressed. It's like I said, it's stress-free football. It's my team, it's my stadium, and I don't have to worry about what the outcome is. Like,
Yeah, but I don't like having a fucking
it's just
park
like,
and all that.
if you're not doing any, well, the only thing is that it's like Sunday at 1 o'clock. I really like the Friday, Saturday night preseason games because, like, you know, it's not like we're going out to F&Ms and shit anymore, right? Like, we're not like having these crazy ass like frat social lives. So it's like either, you know, cook dinner at home, go to dinner at a restaurant, which you could do anytime, or take a Friday night, Saturday night, stress-free, go to the Dome, you know, eat your dinner there, have a few beers. Doesn't matter who wins. You're watching football. Nice stadium, AC, you know. It's nice.
The AC is a big selling point these days.
It's all, they got to figure it out. The AC in the Dome is nice. It's figured out. Actually, I represent the company that balances out the air conditioning. In the
A lot
dome.
of AC talk today between Slater and the Superdome.
Coastal Air Balance. Give them a
Yeah.
shout. Maybe
There we
they'll
go.
sponsor us one day, but they balance the Superdome air conditioning, so it's the same temperature throughout. That's their deal.
Well, cool. So you can give us a full report from the field, ground level.
Yeah, I usually walk around when I do the preseason games because it's like stress-free. So I like get to the seat I'm assigned, then people start to file out. Second string's in. I'm like, oh, let's go check out that other section. So I give you full report. I don't usually break into suites or anything, but you know.
Well, cool. Well, I guess go ahead and enjoy the preseason game. Your stress-free football. The rest of us will be watching it on TV, stress-free at home.
Yeah.
He'll still be stressed out as shit. He's lying.
If I'm stressed out as shit, then something's wrong.
Someone's going to get hurt. Something's going to happen, and Corey's going to be sweating.
If a starter, if Mac's saying, "Oh, I want all the starters to play," and one of those said starters gets hurt, well, yeah, I'll be stressing.
Nobody is indispensable on the offense. I'm talking about the defense. Those are the guys I can't deal with.
Nobody is indispensable.
That's
in the
not
offense.
true.
That's a tough statement.
If you lose Fuaga or McCoy, you're
Well,
toast.
Fuaga's not going to play. I mean, out of the people
That's
who are
true.
going to play this week.
Derek Carr.
And Carr. Season's over if Carr gets hurt. Sorry, Twitter. That's the facts.
No, that's true. Yeah. Yeah, I retract that statement.
You went for it though. You went in.
Yeah.
You went in hard. You went hard in the paint. That was good.
Well, speaking of going in, I can't wait for the season preview episode because I'm ready to
Yep.
see your patented hot take.
Yeah.
I don't know if it'll match last year, but
Gotta
we'll
start
see.
putting them together, Corey.
No way it
Get
could
that
be as
work in.
hot.
I need you to put some actual effort into it this year.
I put in too much effort into it last year. That's what we.
Maybe that's what it is. You overthought
Yeah.
it and broke
Yeah.
it down to such a micro level that it just
I thought it was hot, but it was not.
it was too far over our heads.
It was a tepid take.
Yeah. So I'm looking forward to something like really like Caden Ellis like.
Gets traded to the Saints and leads us in tackles.
Yeah.
No, that won't happen.
No. If anything that involves second or third, like on the team, and none of this. No, it's got to be.
Look. We can establish that as a ground rule now. Is that no hot take can involve
Well,
someone.
it has to be a hot take.
But none of the hot takes can involve someone finishing anywhere less than the most at.
Yeah,
If it's a
yeah.
categorical take, then it's
Yeah. It's got to be hot. It's got to be some kind of heat to it.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
Get to work.
Noted. Or don't
Right.
get to work.
Other than that, I think we'll go ahead and wrap this episode up.
Yep. Till next time, we'll be talking to you after the preseason has officially wrapped, and we'll be in that.
Season preview mode after that.
Hell yeah. It's
coming up.
Bring it on. Bring on the pain.
And there, like Jameis said, pain everywhere.
Who dat?
Till next time.
What